Hello everybody, this is Mike, and no, this is not an outtake. This is brand new content, folks, the real thing. So, trying to get back in the groove a little bit, doing something new, and I thought it was time for another B movie triple feature. Okay, or actually, these aren't even movies; these are flicks. These are B flicks triple feature, courtesy of my good friends at the VideoBeat.com, which is a website that I've talked about incessantly. Okay, the VideoBeat.com. One of my favorite places to buy movies, and I know that all of you have taken my advice and you've gone to that website and spent thousands of dollars. Right. Okay, so anyway, I sent away for these a while ago. They came last week and I watched them all the same day. I had a great time. It's just like being at the drive-in again. 3 movies, 2 of them from the late 50s, one from the early 60s, all very obscure. One of these I'd heard the title of, but otherwise I had never seen them, didn't know anything about them. So that's what I like about the Video Beat. They have films, some of which are so obscure that even freaks like me have never heard of them. So that's why I keep going back and buying their stuff. So let's get into this a little bit. Starting off with a movie from 1958 from American International Studios, probably the best studio that ever existed for teenage-oriented films, and this is called Dragstrip Riot. Okay, Dragstrip Riot, which is a great companion piece to Dragstrip Girl, Hot Rod Gang, Hot Rod Rumble, and T-Bird Gang. And you get the drift here, folks. So, Dragstrip Riot, 68 minutes long. This is a movie that, well, it's pretty much like all the others, but it has all this teenage angst centering around kids who are, crazy about hot rods and motorcycles and fighting over girls in malt shops and getting in trouble with the law, and they're confused and angry and upset parents. What did we do wrong? And all this sort of thing. This movie stars a beautiful actress named Yvonne Lime, and that may be a name that you've heard of. She made a lot of these sort of like teenage, these kinds of films. She was like the teen queen of the moment in several of these movies in the late 50s. Probably best known for being the sweet girlfriend of Michael Landon in I Was a Teenage Werewolf in 1957. But she was a very good actress, always played a really sweet girl no matter what she did. Titles like, let's see, what else did she do? She made something called Speed Crazy. I think she was in High School Hellcats, just all over the place there for a while. And then she retired very young and was sort of never seen in show business again. So it also stars a guy named Gary Clark, who was very well known in some of these films at the same time, a very likable actor, who also made other films in American International, like he played in How to Make a Monster. He played the teenage Frankenstein in that movie because Gary Conway wasn't available. It also stars Fay Wray. This is 25 years after she made King Kong. She shows up in this movie, still be a very attractive woman, playing Gary Clark's mother. So she's featured very prominently in the movie, very good. And it also stars in a supporting role an actress named Connie Stevens, who also started out in some of these teenage films about troubled kids, troubled girls, and all that. She was in films like Young and Dangerous, 18 and Anxious, and a really good one called The Party Crashers. And then she went over to Paramount, and she got a very good role in a Jerry Lewis film called Rockabye Baby, and that's the one that kind of put her over as less of a B star and more of an A list actress, I guess. And she was signed by Warner Brothers. She went into television in a TV series called Hawaiian Eye. So how many people remember Hawaiian Eye? I do. Back 1959 to 1963, I think it was. So after that, she was a very prominent actress. But she was very good in these movies. She really was a standout. And she also, in this film, she sang a couple of songs. There were some other rock and roll songs by a group called the Ripcords. And in a way, this is kind of a precursor to the American International series of the Beach Party films, which came just a few years later, that had a lot of, sort of up-to-the-moment teenage details about the stories, including everybody was trying to have sex, but they didn't. And it also had a lot of music, some of which wasn't really very good. But this is a very, very cool movie. Let's see. This was directed by, who was this directed by? I have no idea, and I don't really care. So, Dragstrip Riot. All right. Next up, also from 1958, from Allied Artists, this is a movie called Joyride. Okay. Now, Joyride, of course, that a lot of people may not recognize that particular term anymore, but back in the 1950s, it had to do with young kids who decide that they want to take a car, not necessarily stealing it, but they want to borrow it just so they can drive it. They see a cool car with some stupid idiot who left his keys in the car, and they just drive the car because they just want to drive it for a while. They really don't necessarily mean to steal the car and keep it, but that's the idea behind this. A bunch of young kids, very troubled kids, they walk past a nice, beautiful house in the suburbs, and they see a guy outside, middle-aged guy, played by veteran actor Regis Toomey. How's that for a name? And he has a brand new Thunderbird, a beautiful Thunderbird. It just made me drool when I saw it in this car. And these guys are hanging around and asking him about his car. And they come back later. They don't like the way the guy talked and like, get out, stop looking at my car. So they come back later and they really start harassing this guy and his wife, and making their lives miserable. And they say all they want to do is just go for a ride in the car, right? Well, these guys are really screwed up, and they make these people just well, they end up breaking into their house. They get violent. The wife of Regis Toomey is played by a veteran actress named Anne Duran. She is actually top billed in the movie, and she was well known for being James Dean's mother in Rebel Without a Cause, where she played a very hard-edged, kind of a mean mother who didn't get along with her son at all. But in this one, she plays a very sweet character, although they don't have any children in the house. But yeah, Anne Duran was a very good actress. The other actors in the film, people I don't really know about. Let's see. There was a guy, the guy who played the really bad kid who got sort of center stage in all of this, was played by an actor named Rad Fulton. That's R-A-D Fulton, who was given that name by a very famous casting agent, Hollywood agent named Henry Wilson, who was responsible for giving a lot of these weird names to a lot of other young actors like Tab Hunter. He invented that name. He invented Rock Hudson. I think he also gave Guy Madison his name. So he found this kid whose real name was James Westmoreland, and he renamed him Rad Fulton. Well, Rad Fulton later on, when he broke away from Henry Wilson, he changed his name back to James Westmoreland, and had a big string of credits on the Internet Movie Database, most of it on television. Directed by a guy named Edward Burns, that's B-E-R-N-D-S, who's responsible for a lot of terrific movies. Queen of Outer Space, High School Hellcats, Return of the Fly, Reformed Schoolgirl, Valley of the Dragons, The Three Stooges in Orbits, a whole bunch of the Bowery Boys short films, well, like 60-minute films, feature films, and a lot of things with the Three Stooges. This movie clocks in at 60 minutes, and it's worth every second, all right? So the third film is something called Greenwich Village Story. This is from 1963, and I did do a lot of research on the people in this, because when I watched the film, although I enjoyed it thoroughly, I didn't recognize any of the names at all, and I just sort of just enjoyed the film for what it was. This is a story that takes place in Greenwich Village in the early 1960s, and they shoot a lot of it on location, so you get to see places like Washington Square Park, people gathering around, playing guitars and singing folk music, and a lot of people walking around with beards, and it shows the inside of sort of cafes where beatniks hang out, and they're spouting poetry, and they're talking about their dreams for music and art and writing. The story actually centers on a young man and a young woman who are living together, and she is a ballet student. He is a wannabe writer, and he is desperate to finish this book that he's been working on, and he's very much afraid that he's not going to be a success in life. Well, they love each other very much. She seems to be a little bit more committed to the relationship than he is, and she finds out that she's pregnant, and she's afraid to tell him because she's afraid that he will leave her. And so that's where the drama comes in. It gets very, very dramatic. It's actually a very good story, very well acted. And I have a kind of a theory about people who work in films like this. Get these young actors who are just starting out. They're lean, they're hungry, they want to prove something. And most of them give very good performances because they just let all their emotions, just let them all come through, because they're starting out and they want to, you know, get something done, get something on film. And I just enjoy this stuff thoroughly. So I guess that's really all I want to say. I might do this a lot more in the coming year. Just talk about double features, triple features of these obscure films that I really love. If any of you have ever heard of these or have seen them by some miracle, let me know. In the meantime, I'm out of here. So you can leave comments and you can tell me what you think. And I'll be back with more outtakes. Yeah, right.